Hello, everyone. My name is Adrian Montano. I'm a trainer and excellence coach at MindGrasp, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to yet another one of our live sessions. So we've started this new series on hypnosis and what hypnosis is really about, dispelling very common misconceptions that people might have about hypnosis. And last time, I talked about how a lot of things that people aren't that comfortable with respect to hypnosis stem from Sigmund Freud, who denounced it because he said that hypnosis risks unleashing the nastiness of the unconscious mind. But as I mentioned yesterday, and as I started going deeper, the unconscious mind is anything but nasty. The unconscious mind is in charge of all our learnings, all our change, and all our behaviors. And so learning how to communicate with the unconscious mind, which is what hypnosis is about, is actually really useful to help us, learn, develop new flexible performing behaviors, and change at an ever faster rate. And considering the way the world is going, the way the rate of change and transformation in the world are increasing, I'd say it's well worth learning how to communicate with your unconscious mind. Hello, Diana, welcome. And to connect with this deepest part of yourself in order to improve behaviors, to make changes, and to learn faster. In one of my previous videos, it was a different series, I mentioned how, and this was something that the futurologist Alvin Toffler talked about already in the 1980s, so way before the internet, at least way before the internet was public, way before our current technological, IT-driven revolution was taking place. And he said, in the future, the most important skill won't be a technical specific skill per se. It will be the ability to learn, to unlearn, and then to relearn yet again, so as to quickly move on and adapt to changes in society, which is exactly the critical juncture point where we are now. In order for us to stay relevant, I'd say it's ever more important to stay relevant and to make a significant difference according to our life purpose. And more on the life purpose in a later talk. But in order to keep making a difference and to being relevant in the work market, in the marketplace, we need to adhere to those characteristics of ours which are our own abilities. And this is where the conscious-unconscious integration that I want to address today comes into play. Because well-integrated behaviors and proper adaptation to change and to an ever-shifting environment comes from understanding the role of the conscious mind and of the unconscious mind, respectively. Now, the conscious mind, most people would think, their conscious attention and their focus is all there is to the mind. And it's tempting to do that because it's, in your everyday attention all the time, except when you sleep, but we'll get to that later. So the conscious mind is logical, it's linear, going from A to B very clearly. It works like Newtonian physics, and it also is very straightforward. Whereas the unconscious mind is symbolic and emotional. So it communicates not so much through logics and reason like the conscious mind, but rather symbols, and it responds to symbols as well, and it communicates through emotions. The conscious mind asks why. The unconscious mind knows why you're doing something, or rather why you're not doing something when you aren't. The unconscious mind also is not linear but and sequential as the conscious mind, but rather it's simultaneous. So if consciously you might think that in order for you to get from A to B, let's say A is where you are now and B is where your goal is, where your direction is, in order for you to get from A to B, you need to go through all the intermediary points at a time. And you might start to do that process, but at one point you might have actually gathered enough data and enough concrete experience that the unconscious mind will unwittingly connect the dots and deliver to you an intuition which will serve you to jump over the remaining steps and get to your ultimate destination much quicker, much quicker and faster. So the unconscious mind does that very often, and now that we have brain scans, we can actually see the neural processes in action when such events occur. So it's almost like a critical mass of experiences of a certain type occur, and then the unconscious mind derives learning from it and delivers that learning in the form of an intuition. Now, lots of rational people, highly rational people, would tend to dismiss the role of the unconscious mind. But in fact, it's precisely some of the most rational people in history, some of the most well-known scientists who've made some of the greatest contributions to our understanding of how nature works and to the development of the field of science. Some of these people have deliberately used and expressively used some of the roles of the unconscious mind in order to further their work. So take, for instance, Kekulé, who, the mathematician and chemist, who, oh, hello, Maria, welcome. Who came most famously resolved the structure of atoms in the molecule of benzene. And he very famously struggled with this problem for quite a long while until he said the solution for it came to him in a dream. So the unconscious mind delivered that intuition to him. He dreamt of Ouroboros, the symbol which occurs in so many cultures of the snake eating its own tail. And so Kekulé interpreted it as, the hexagonal, six-angled structure of benzene. Very famously also Albert Einstein. Oh, hello, Andrea. Welcome. Very famously, Albert Einstein talked about how he used creative, deliberate imagination in order to resolve problems in physics. And his famous thought experiments were key in helping him figure out the theory of relativity. And very importantly, going beyond what was the accepted mainstream thinking of his own time. So he used his creative imagination in order to resolve what seemed unresolvable, so problems that on a strictly rational level seemed unresolvable, and he was able to create a new paradigm and then chunk down into the details of and the formulae for how exactly it works and deliver the arguments. But you see, this breaking of the paradigm, this conceiving of something new, is not immediately possible if you don't use the creative thinking of the unconscious mind. And here comes into play and another aspect. So, I mentioned Einstein. The conscious mind, I said, works... Oh, hello, Roxana, welcome. The conscious mind works according to Newtonian physics, whereas the unconscious mind works according to Einsteinian, so relativity, and quantum mechanics. And I'm not throwing around those words lightly, because some people, especially in the field of personal development, might tend to, let's say, overuse the word quantum, as in quantum leap in consciousness and so on. But actually, and we have this on hard data from the field of neuroscience, the way the brain and the nervous system behave and the way nervous cells behave renders, oh, hello, Laura, welcome, behaves, renders some of the phenomena that we see on a subatomic scale, on a quantum scale. So, for instance, you might know of spooky action at a distance. Two particles that were initially joined, and then no matter how far they are in the universe, the way one particle behaves will immediately translate, instantaneously translate to how the other particle behaves. So they are somehow interlinked, and they function in exactly the same way. Now, we've actually noticed that in the brain with neurons. We have sometimes neurons that instead of needing a direct pathway to fire up, they just fire up together at the same time, although there is no immediate connection between them. So that is quite similar to a quantum phenomenon. And I will mention Leonard Mladenov's book Subliminal about the nervous structures that support the working of the unconscious mind and the praeter-conscious processes that keep our body functioning and that allow us to, as I've mentioned before, do learning, deep learning, behavioral change, and support our ongoing behaviors without us having to consciously, work for it and strive for it deliberately. So that's that would be, in a nutshell, the way the conscious-unconscious integration works, and the purposes of the conscious and the unconscious mind. Now, to really bring them together, it would mean to accept that the main purpose of the unconscious mind is to be very specific when it delivers commands to the conscious mind, and not just to the unconscious mind, not just when you're setting goals, but pretty much all the time. Be very mindful of your internal dialogue and also your external dialogue. Whatever you say about other people, your unconscious mind takes it personally. It's as though you were telling it to yourself. So, are you being as nice in the words you say or the thoughts you have about yourself and others around you? Because your unconscious mind takes all of that personally. And the unconscious mind kind of behaves like a 5-year-old child, takes everything literally. And you wouldn't, you'd want to behave nicely to a 5-year-old child who looks up to you like you're their beloved parent, which you are. And that's what the unconscious mind does. Hello, Emma. Welcome. So that's exactly the kind of treatment you should deliver. And then the unconscious mind, and if you're specific in what you're requesting, will be glad to deliver it by the path of least resistance. And this brings me to another one of the quantum-like phenomena that we've noticed, that neuroscientists have noticed in the brain and the nervous system, when certain types of neural stimuli have sufficiently gathered up. Although they are disparate, they come from disparate parts of the nervous system, there is like a simultaneous leap in the interconnectivity of the brain. Just by the sheer quantity brings a leap in the quality of interconnection, which is exactly the same as when a particle, an electron, gets enough energy that it automatically leaps from one atomic orbit to another, and it does so simultaneously. It's not a progressive process. It happens just simultaneously, and the process just works exactly the same in our nervous system. So, bottom line for today, and in the following days, I will go even deeper and more detailed with the purposes of the unconscious mind and its roles for us. You might recognize them in your own experience. Bottom line for today, be mindful of your unconscious mind and take good care of it. Hello, Donna. Welcome again. Take good care of it and notice how your internal dialogue and your external dialogue, the kind of directions that you're giving to it, because that decisively guides your learning, your behaviors, and the changes that you can or cannot get done in your life. And whether you're getting closer towards what you want or less so. So I'm very happy that you tuned in for today's meeting, for today's live video, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you and many more over the following days, so for our next sessions. And until then, I'm yours truly and joyous, Adrian Montano, trainer and excellence coach at Mindgrasp. I dearly salute you, and I gladly invite you to share your own experiences with the connection between conscious and the unconscious mind with the group. And I'm sure we'll gather some very interesting and noteworthy, worthwhile insights. Have a brilliant evening, and until next time, I wish you all the best. Bye.